Welcome, everybody, to our second episode of Advancing Consciousness podcast. This podcast is there to assist you, to remind you, to trigger within your own knowing, and also to facilitate as us working together to really reach new levels of beingness and really transform our human experience and world. Today, we're going to look at what is really happening and really going on, because there's a lot of perspectives, a lot of perceptions, a lot of different ideas of what is going on, and there's also a lot of confusion. And at the same time, we're also looking at what is really playing out or what is playing out around us and not looking at it from a bigger perspective. And that's what we're going to do today. So join us. So, what is really happening? I mean, everywhere we look, we see so much what we can call chaos. We can see so much polarization. We can see a lot of things playing out right now that can feel very confusing, very unsettling. And really, at this point in time, we're at a point where everything is moving so quickly and we have losing our grounding, or what we call a form of grounding in our society and our reality, that it can feel somewhat emotionally charged with fear, confusion, and feeling totally lost in the game and feeling helpless. And that is something that is playing out for quite some time for many people, but it's become much more powerful now. So really, what's going on? Let's take a look at a bigger perspective, a bigger picture from the aspect of yourself that sees the beautiful dance for what it is. This is a game. This is something that we have chosen to be here to play with. And right now, all that is playing out is something that we have agreed upon. In fact, we were excited to be here, to be part of all of this that's taken on right now. Yes, from a human perspective, when we're talking about the operating systems and belief systems and so forth, it can seem quite unwrestling. That's not quite the right word, but uncomfortable. And it can create some more confusion. Now, we have to understand we're also going through a transformation, and that requires us to purge a lot of what we're experiencing. But at the same time, what's really also taking place at this point is that all of us, in one way or another, are being pushed hard to really bring that aspect of ourselves, that knowing within ourselves, to the forefront and to experience the game on a bigger plane. Now, all of us are here for a very powerful purpose, to be participating and to be part of all that's taking place. Now, many of us have been preparing. Many of us have been waiting. Many of us have felt that, I'm here, but I'm not experiencing what I feel within myself. And always wanting to see how can we play this game in such a fashion, or experience ourselves in this reality in such a fashion that actually feels much more in resonance and alignment. Now, we've all gone through different stages of our lives, and we've all experienced as many things that are taking place and have taken place along the way. We have come here and we decided to play the game of life a certain particular way, and we've adopted ideas, concepts, belief systems. We got conditioned, programmed. We've took aside everything that we came here to experience and play and put it aside temporarily so that we can integrate and have the human experience. Yes, a part of us have gotten to the depth of where we went into this inverted world much more deeply than before, and also felt in some way or another that by doing so that you can feel more comfortable, and that allowed us to feel accepted from the game. But at the same time, many parts of us have felt that, okay, I really want to explore. I want to be the genuine aspect that I am, even in the physical form, because the physical form was never there designed to restrict, but to enhance, to complement, and to be able to have a particular experience you couldn't have anywhere else. So let's take a look at what's happening. So right now, what is happening is that we are being bombarded by very powerful energies that we have called in collectively, and that we're using our brother sister souls in one way or another from other realms and dimensions and so forth, and even our connections to other souls that we have a strong connection to allow these beautiful, powerful energies to come in, new codes, new activational aspects, new higher spectrums of light. And when we're talking about higher spectrums of light, we're talking a fuller spectrum of light that reflects our true nature, reflects our true essence, our sourceness, and that's coming through. Now, the reason that that's all coming through is to assist us to create a shift within ourselves and our playground. Now, we all have come here as powerful beings, and we all have carried forth these codes and these spectrums of light, and also these levels of consciousness, which we have put into a dormant state. Now, I'm not going to get into the makeup of our physical aspect, because we are going to cover that, and I have covered some of it in our series that we have, is also called Advancing Consciousness series. Those are video versions of it. But anyways, at this point in time, what we're looking at, these reactivations that are occurring in us, is also affecting the upgrade of what Gaia, or what we call the planet operating system, has been operating at one point or another. Now, just to give you a little bit of a transitional aspect of how it all came about, 15,000 years ago, the planet was retooled. That meant that it was reprogrammed, re-established to operate in a different way of expressing itself. What that also required was an upgraded matrix, which was an operating system. It also changed and upgraded and changed also the operating system of Gaia's reflection of what it can hold energetically and also support as a conscious. Now, part of this upgrade required the planet to go into an operating system that was quite technically advanced. And I say that loosely because it was advanced in its consciousness and advanced in its capacities. So planet Earth was tooled and tuned to be able to harness organic, true, natural, 3D, third dimensional consciousness in a third dimensional, or not in this case, third density representation, with its capacities to be able to go into fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth dimensional consciousness, and also to transition into a fourth density and fifth density way of hosting whatever would be the playmates coming onto the planet. So everything was tooled and retuned in such a specific way to provide something that was quite unique in all of the other planets within the galaxy. Now, the positioning of planet Earth was also the hub of the quadrant of the galaxy, and its positioning not only contribute to all the planets that were connected to it and solar systems connected in that quadrant, and also the overall galaxy itself, but also to be recipient of all of this support, but not only support, but also those experiential realms. So it gave the opportunity to have planet Earth to continue to evolve in a very powerful way. But it also, planet Earth was back to restored to its original purpose, which was to be a massive hard drive, and also to maintain a quite an expanded variety of frequencies and spectrums of light, so that other sentient beings or other beings, other aspects of ourselves in different forms would be able to come here and feel comfortable and to be able to function for periods of time, even though it would not host them for long term. And that was not the intent. Now, part of the retooling, there was a reseeding, and there was a reseeding of sentient beings or sentient life form. So, what happened? Plant lives were brought in from various planets throughout the galaxy and some from other galaxies. And they were planted on planet Earth. They seeded the planet Earth with all of these sentient plant lives. Now, all of these plant life hold a specific frequency, a specific consciousness, a spectrum of light. And each one represented, to a certain degree, the planets that they came from. Now, they were slightly modified to be able to work in harmony on planet Earth. The other part of it was also reseeding of different animal kingdoms. So there were different animals brought in from different parts of the galaxy, from different planets. There was different reptilian beings, or what we call that, birds, oceanic, and so forth, were brought in as part of the reseeding, each one contributing that really expanded different frequencies, and also to harness energies that would allow other beings to visit and feel somewhat at home. Now, of course, all of them were modified to a certain degree to be able to harness a certain aspect of ourselves, to be able to, in this case, harness or be able to support us with what these new beings that were going to be created. Now, planet Earth then was reseeded with what we call humans, this version of humans that we are embodying. That meant the physicalities were now designed. But to be able to support all of the different capacities and capabilities that planet Earth was tooled for, and to also work with the natural organic matrix, which every planet has, but this one here that was upgraded, there was something that wanted to be, there was a focus on creating a human body, or a body which wasn't called human at the time, but a physicality to express itself on planet Earth that would reflect all that was being brought in and was activated as part of the journey. So then the human bodies were created from 12 different species. Pretty well, that's all. Now, the only thing that changed was the different ratios of what the influence of these species were. And this is why we have variants of humans. And when I say variants, being the color of the skin, their operating system, and also some of the things that they would put focus in, and what's harnessing of energies and spectrums of their representation would be. Not one better than the other in any way, shape, or form. So here we are. These physicalities were constructed through 12 different species, which you could say is a 12-species hybridization or hybrid. But at the same time, it was completely aligned with and harmonious to not only Gaia, the planet itself, but all the sentient beings on the planet. And also, basically, the energies that were within the quadrant of the galaxy, and also to be able to be updated accordingly. So this was all put into place 15,000 years ago, and I was part of it, not as Franco, but as my soul, as one of the key engineers that was involved with the retooling of the planet Earth, the reseeding, and also creating new forms of souls to be able to come in. And we're not talking about the souls itself, but the physicalities at this point in time. That was rolled out and played out and multiplied and so forth along for 5,000 years. Then 10,000 years ago, there was an introduction that was provided by certain beings that operated in a certain frequency, which I won't go into the detail today, which I will cover in future episodes. But they came in and created the opportunity for us to experience something totally different. That involved modifying the operating system of the planet. In fact, the organic matrix was so powerful that it was not easily to be reprogrammed. So therefore, what took place? They created what we called an inverted matrix. And that inverted matrix represented everything backwards. So instead of evolution, progressing evolution, it progressed de-evolution. but at the same time made everything backwards, so it created a certain level of confusion and capacity of getting lost. So that was part of it. To maintain that, the moon was brought in as a transmitter satellite at that point to support that, to be part of that experience. Not only that, then there was artificial intelligence implanted, which is an operating system which we call the ego, to facilitate at that point. Now, our operating system of our body and also the capacities of what it can do, at this point in time, was also modified so that we were not connected to the same degree. Now, I will get into more details with it in another episode of a lot of the changes, because that also influences what we are doing right now. So that was offered 10,000 years ago, so 5,000 years after it was retooled and had an opportunity to create some form of stability within that natural operating system with all its upgrade. Now, part of this modification that happened 10,000 years ago, a lot of our DNAs, because each of our DNAs represents a particular species, each DNA is a transmitter receiver that continue to share back as a feedback and also to receive upgrades accordingly based on those particular species. This is the reason that the DNAs were also live and also had the telomeres and so forth as the communication capacities. So that had to be modified also, because if you're receiving upgrades, you're going to receive opportunities to be able to become more advanced, and that would not be able to maintain this invertedness, because the inverted matrix required a closed loop. It could not receive advancement, and also at the same time all the other operating capacities that were also established within it was not able to be free flowing, because if it did so, then it would not be able to maintain this inverted matrix, inverted operating system. So with those changes, we shifted from organic 3D with the capacity to go organic 4D, 5D, all the way to 9D. We started shifting back into, not using the word correctly here when I said back, because we were never there, to go into what we call the inverted 3D, where everything worked backwards, and the main process was de-evolution rather than evolution, or devolving instead of evolving. So, and then that went even further to go into 2D. So that was all established 10,000 years ago, and we moved forward along the way with various upgrades with the 5D. There was an upgrade 5,000 years ago, an upgrade 3,500 years ago, an upgrade around 1,000 years ago, and 350 years ago was the last one. Now, each time those upgrades were because of the energies around us were actually stimulating us to become back online, and to keep us offline, those modifications were occurring. However, a decision was made as a collective, not only from within the galaxy, but within our own solar system and us, all the different souls that were on the planet and are still here now, and others that have come and gone. Now, the agreement was made that we were now going to go into reversal process, where we were going to unplug ourselves from this inverted matrix and replug ourselves back into what we call the organic matrix. We were going to reverse the process of going into 2D, inverted 3D, and going back into organic 3D and what we can call organic 5D. Those two were optional. Now, the process started in 87 through a conversion, so there were many, many changes that occurred. I will go into more details at another time of those parts of it. Now, I've talked about it in various episodes in the Advancing Consciousness series, and I've talked about it in different workshops, and I've talked about it in different things that I've communicated through interviews and so forth along the way. But I will go into it a little bit more detailed along the way, but not right now. So to understand at this point in time, as we were going, what we had made a decision in 87 to turn off various parts of it. One was a necessity of polarity, the necessity of having a karma, and what that represented, because karma in itself is a topic we will explore and look at more deeply, because we have to understand that that is not applicable any longer, but we are still giving power to it. So that was that, and also some of the self-destruct codes that were put into place. Now, At that change, we took some of those obstacles, limitations, and so forth within that operating system. The energies of the planet, even the what they call the Schumann frequency and so forth, started to increase from 87 on. And not only those increases, but we started to shift into higher energies, higher spectrum of consciousness, and to be able to give us opportunities to see outside of the game and not to be totally lost in the game. Now, that affected people at different degrees. Some people didn't even notice much. Others people did notice something changing within themselves. Now, if you're listening to this, you may have been experiencing that from that point. However, that continued until 2012, and at the end of 2012, going into 2013, we went to a second stage. So there was much more changes rolled out, and the frequency started to increase even more powerfully along the way. And then with the intent by 2017, we would be where we are today. However, because of certain circumstances and many souls were not quite ready for it, and the depth of the polarization that was being experienced, that a lot of extensions were required, and so extensions were put into place, even though many of the preparational work and so forth continued. So 2017 continued providing, maybe not as the arrival point as intended, but it was very instrumental, as also 2018, 2019, and now here we are in 2020. And we are pretty well 3/4 of the way through 2020. So 2020 was a next stage. That was the third stage. And as you can see and be witness of, you see that the intensities of not only the energy, spectrums of light, and also the confusion and so forth, and the changes and the feeling within yourself, and also the changes that are occurring in your body has really super accelerated. Each wave coming in has been back to back pretty well, with very little time of integration, where we used to have more time for integration. And the purpose of that is that we are keeping the motion moving forward in a powerful way. Now, part of the preparation in 2019 was to actually stage 2 platforms which would host the organic 3D and organic 5D, which both were not really truly experienced at any point in time to the fullest for the last 10,000 years. The reason the 2 platforms were created is because there were many souls that wanted to experience the organic 3D, because they've been only experiencing inverted 3D and 2D, and in the inverted matrix wanted to experience the organic 3D with the organic matrix to be able to have that experience. Now, the difference between the two of the organic 3D and organic 5D, I will explain quickly, briefly, with more details later on. So what we have experienced at this point in time in the organic version of the platform was the organic 5D, and that was also put into place. So we had the option to go into 3D and 5D, and that option was made available, which we chose to experience that transition in 2019, and now we're experiencing it much more powerful in 2020. Now, part of the agreement was also to turn off the inverted matrix, turn off the transmission from the moon, so that we were not continually being bombarded with the different frequencies that supported that invertedness that we had carried on for 10,000 years. Not all of us have been here. Very few of us may have only been here. And now the bodies have, absolutely. Our human entities have, absolutely. But our souls have not. The souls, some of us have come back and forth at different times, bringing in different energies and dimensional consciousness and so forth. But now, here you are. This combination that's existing right now is what we're experiencing at this point. So, your souls knew what it was up to and what it was, or what role it wanted to play, and what it was going to go through, and the different process. And that's what we're experiencing right now. So what's really happening? Well, we are going back more aligned with organic 3D and organic 5D with our organic matrix. Now, because of all of our constructs and all the versions of ourselves that we've experienced up to this point in time was all constructed. Even our memories, our defaults, our patterns, our education, our conditioning, and so forth were all created while the inverted matrix was active, while we were in inverted 3D and 2D state of being. So our history is basically prevalent and really immersed in that part of it. So a lot of our conditioning, programming, and so forth tend to go back into that state. So what is happening right now? Well, the energies that are coming in at this point in time is stimulating us. Now, many of us have started this process of purging ourselves from 87. It really ramped up from 2012 up to this point in time. And now it's on overdrive, on steroids, whatever you want to call it, at this point in time. So what's happening? We are purging all aspects of our older self. Everything that was created in the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, and so forth. We're purging that in a very powerful way. We're letting all of it going. And it's becoming easier and easier to let it go because our vibration is increasing, our spectrums of light is increasing, our access of consciousness is increasing. And also the planet is supporting us, and all the energies that are coming through are supporting us, and each and every single code that we are being downloaded with is also stimulating us very powerfully. But it's also reigniting, reactivating ourselves, our true selves, the self that is now that sourceness, having a human experience instead of a human experience being solely what it is. And the organic 3D aspect gives us the opportunity to experience ourselves as a physicality having a spiritual experience, or what we call essence source experience, with a little bit more focus on the physical representation, which is also upgrading and which is going through a transformation. And I will cover that shortly. The other, when we're talking about the 5D, organic 5D, it's more of its beingness, its sourceness having a human experience. So there's more of that sourceness that is being plugged into the human experience, so the human experience has it. Now, both are working hand in hand. Both are interconnected. You can move from one or the other, but you also can move into inverted 3D and 2D, and that is part of the purging that we're going through. Now, if we look at every single system, every little idea, all the role players that exist. And when I'm talking about systems, we're talking about the monetary, religious systems, the systems of the government, the systems of the education, the systems of the medical, the systems of different rules, laws, and different things that we've adopted were all created, all stimulated, all reflective of the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, and 2D. So what are we doing? We're reversing all of that. We're dissolving those constructs. Now, of course, we can't just blow it all up in one shot because it would create such confusion for most people. And plus, it would be unfair, if you want to call it that, as a lack of a better word, for the souls to really participate, because this is what it is. We're doing this together. So what's happening? We are changing physically. We're going from carbon to silicate to crystal. What's the difference? Well, we carry more energy, more codes, more vibration, more spectrums of light, okay? Which is more what we call 0 point, where there is no polarity. Because polarity, which I will talk about more extensively in another episode, was a construct and was utilized, and there's a purpose for that, which that purpose is now coming to its form of completion. So our body's going through transformation. More of the blueprint is coming to place. So you're going to feel different within yourself physically. Your attention to what you're drawn to consume, and to expose yourself is going to change. And it is changing. And many of us have been feeling it for quite some time, for quite a few years, but it is being accentuated even further now. The other part that's changing is that all of our systems that were created in the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D state of being is now collapsing, or basically becoming destabilized, and is being challenged in many, many ways. Of course, we're still working through a lot of our programming and so forth at this point in time. So we are now changing our focus within ourselves. And I'm going to cover that in another episode. But the focus, the direction that we are looking at our life, and creating more in alignment with ourselves to see how things harmonize for ourselves, rather than functioning in a what we can call a dysfunctional state. But at this point in time, to really look at our life in a different way than what we've been looking at, and very powerfully. Now, with everything that's destabilizing at this point, it's going to seem chaotic. Yes, the polarities have accentuated, but that's just really to facilitate us to break out of these patterns, because a lot of us are locked into patterns, belief systems, and so forth, and that it's been a little bit more challenging to let all of that stuff go, because it became part of your life, and not only part of your life, it's been a full integration of your life. So what's happening with that regards? So that you're looking around is destabilizing. Yes, it's going to be pulled from one side to the other, but we are really playing in the forefront of changing all of that. And that's what's really taking place. Now, of course, with the destabilization, it's also challenging us, because part of the process, like I said, we are letting go older versions of ourselves that put so much power into that old construct, that old world. And a lot of us are saying, well, I've invested a lot of time, energy, and so forth. Yes, and you had your experiences. Yes, and you're getting the opportunity to devolve it, or to shut bits and pieces down while you're achieving levels of saturation and completion within it, because you feel that, okay, I've got my saturation from it, now I can start turning more of this off. Now, the stimulation we're receiving from Gaia and so forth, and from everything that's being streamed from the sun, from our galactic central sun, and all of that stuff at this point in time, is all facilitating us to make these changes within ourselves. So what's going on right now is the representation of that falling down of those structures, destabilizing of these structures, so that we can actually introduce that. And who's introducing it? We are, collectively. And this is why it's key and instrumental that we go through the changes and processes that we are going through, because we're the ones that are redesigning the human experience and redesigning the planetary experience, or what the planetary operating system is. Now, of course, we are getting some assistance, but the thing is, it's not there in any way to impede and to take our capacities. Part of this is also bringing in higher aspects of ourselves into alignment. That is, those parts of ourselves that we put dormant, that we came in with, are being reactivated. The DNAs are being stimulated and reactivated to the degree it serves us, so that we are also receiving upgrades of our brother sister souls that were the contributors as the transmitter receivers that they were originally designed to do. And that is coming into play. So that's changing many aspects of our expression and experience, and how we choose to play this game we call life. And all of this is taking place right now in a very powerful way, in a very accelerated way. Now, of course, we have a default that anything that we don't seem to have control of, because it can feel and seem that way, that we need to be afraid of. The programming of the afraid of the unknown is, again, a program which the ego plays a powerful role in it. The ego is going to project it. Oh my God, the unknown is to be afraid of. This is who we are. We are this particular profession, this particular individual in form of being male or female, or that we are our history, our stories, our upbringing, our lineage, and all of that stuff. That's really coming from the ego. And that is the artificial intelligence that is, been plugged in originally from day one to really support the inverted matrix, inverted 3D type of experience. So at this point, all of that is unraveling, and we're bringing in more and more of that into play. And so as much as it may seem confusing, unsettling, it is something we are bringing forth in a very powerful way to assist us to really bring in what we originally came here to do in the first place. Now, all of us knew what we were coming into. We all knew Now, I know it's from a superconscious level where many of us are accessing more of, but from a conscious level, we had this feeling, we had this knowing that there's more to this than this game. And yes, we're going to play the game for a little while, but now you want to change the game. And that's what we're doing. We're upgrading. So everything that was originally put into place 15,000 years ago in its most upgraded version, because it has continued to upgrade, we're now reestablishing. That will change how our physicality works and so forth. It will also change what we do. And we're going to be introducing more of the true nature of ourselves forth. And that is all rolling out right now. And it doesn't matter if we're experiencing lockdowns. It's really an opportunity that we've agreed to establish that. Yeah, it's going to bring up fear. It's going to bring unsettledness. It's going to bring a collapse of certain things. But that only creates openings for you to bring more of the truest form of what you want to choose to experience from this point. So all of this is happening because we've agreed to make it happen. This has been agreed upon from your body, innate consciousness that has continued to evolve. It also has an agreement from your human entity, which is a kind of a soul that is bound to, or designated to reincarnate on planet Earth. And it's also your own soul that is interdimensional, that is also bringing in various experiences from other playgrounds and so forth. And many of us have spent time on different playgrounds to integrate ourselves, so when we came here that we would be able to use some of that much more effectively. And those playgrounds were representative of the DNAs that we have within ourselves. And at some point I will cover what that is, the makeup, but I did cover it in one of our recent episodes of Advancing Consciousness series. So that's what's happening at this point in time. What's really going on is we're going through a complete transformation. The transformation was something that we have chosen to do so, even if we're not totally conscious of. All that is taking is not to destroy us, but to advance us. Yes, it may look like certain facets of ourselves are destroying. Because we're coming to the understanding that everything is made up and that we're not relying on others to change any part of it, that we are doing it together, that we are key and instrumental in all of this, that when we access more of that understanding, that we see it for what it is. Now we have to understand, we're powerful beings. This is a game. We came here to play here. This is why I refer in many of my episodes that this is just a playground that hosts a holographic expression of yourself, which the playground is also a holographic expression that is in the field of sourceness, because nothing is outside of field of sourceness. Light and dark is all still part of source, and it's just different spectrums of frequencies that it's put its focus and its creation within. And that's the true understanding of all of that. So seeing all of that unfolding right now, we are bringing forth powerful transformation. And I will elaborate a little bit more on the different parts of the details as we go along. And I did extend it a little further to give you much more of that understanding. Now, the purpose of what you just heard, or what we shared in this episode of the podcast, is to really stimulate that knowing within you. And I've said this very clearly, and I will say it again, and I've said it many times, that this is there to stimulate your own true knowing. This is the reason that it resonates, because you are prepared to hear this and to stimulate that. You're the one that's doing it. It's not myself or anybody else. We may be triggering or playing a role, but we're also triggering others. All the changes you experience, you are transmitting throughout the collective, but you're also through your lineage and the different people that you choose to interact with. We're not here to save or fix anybody or anything, because nobody's broken. We're all having certain experiences. But we share our own experience. We hold our certain frequencies. And while we're doing that, we also create the changes that are occurring. As much as all of this that's happening in the political sense, and all the other aspects of these viruses and whatever else that may be coming out, and the different unrolling, all of it is purposeful, but we are still fully in charge of how it plays out, how we unroll it out, and so forth. Now, We've already made an agreement to move forward in a powerful way. The steps and stages that we're going through is, we're monitoring all of it, and we're using some of our brother sister souls to hold us accountable, but also to make sure that we don't get too off track at this point in time. So it's kind of the guardrails, but at the same time, the guardrails are flexible, so they will expand, but at the same time, they will keep us on track. But the track is really us going through forward. So what's happening? We're utilizing more of our consciousness. Our mind is changing. Our bodies is changing. The playground is changing. All to go into our organic state. The real, true design of the human experience and all the sentient beings that are on the planet. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And a lot of times we have to tear down, or in this case, not in the effortful place, but just the fact that we're shifting our focus and allowing certain other higher energies to come through. All of that destabilization, which is all occurring at this point in time, is what is rolling out. So that's what we're doing. That's what's happening right now. This is a beautiful dance that is not only on planet Earth, is also what we call a solar dance and a cosmic dance. And this dance is really shaping itself to provide us an opportunity that we have really longed forward to do and to experience. Planet Earth is a hot spot, and we are, here because we have chosen to be here, and we made a lot of arrangements to be here. So appreciate this that's going on. This is not about, okay, I want to go into hibernation until all of this changes. No, it's about us taking active role. And the active role starts with you. The active role is bringing that higher aspect of yourself into alignment. And we're going to look at some of those processes and so forth along the way through the podcast or the different episodes at this point in time. So that gives you the basis of this episode. So what's really happening, or what's happening and really going on, we've given you a good fair, and we will expand even further and give you a little bit more details in certain areas. So we'll break it down in little sections of it for you to utilize much more easily. Share this with as many people as possible. Let other people know that this podcast is available. These episodes are there to assist everyone. The more it reaches out, the quicker we make the changes, the quicker that we get more in alignment together, because this is something we are doing collectively. And again, utilize some of our other platforms and formats and so forth, and share that, and also utilize it for yourself. These are all tools and expansion of yourself at this point in time. We are welcome to receive any contribution to support us to do our work. Please feel free to register on the email. So join the community so that you will be informed should there be any restrictions put into any of the stuff that we are putting out there, because social media right now has been a little bit more restrictive, and also been blocking other people. We're hoping that we're not going to go into that experience, because that's not the intended experience at this point in time. However, to have that community connection gives you an idea of what's coming up and so forth, so that you can be aware of it and look for it. And we are streaming on many, many platforms, so that we have availability to access this content for your own usage. And that's it. So until the next episode, have yourself a blast, and we are going out to play in ways that we've never played before. Thank you.